Welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle. This is your host Kyle. I'm taking over for Josh this week, and second time I'm doing the pod after a win, so I'm not going to complain much. But joining me today is Daniel and Dan. So I'm sure that won't get confusing. But guys, how you doing this morning, or I guess afternoon for you guys?
Very good. Nothing better than waking up after a win.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was pretty late going that one. Yeah, I think some people left. I think some people left the ground is what they were saying before the game was even over. But it is true. Sunderland did come away with a last minute Nathan Broadhead winner, 1-0 win over Gillingham. And I guess I'll just start it here. How much do you guys hate Gillingham? Because I just absolutely cannot stand it.
Yeah, just a typical kind of bottom of the barrel League One team, and that's no reflection on their fans or their players
Right,
or anything.
right.
I understand they're fighting relegation, and you have to do what you have to do to earn points. But gee, it was a dull watch, wasn't it? It was a horrible game to kind of, as a Sunderland fan anyway, just to put up with that shenanigans, time wasting from I think the 14th minute, 15th minute,
Right.
and then obviously the last minute winner, and then them complaining to the ref about time. Oh, was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
Right. When I think Gillingham, like, I feel like they're the living embodiment of League One. Right. When people think League One and and just assume that what it's like, it's just watch one Gillingham game and that's basically everything you'll have to know. And I feel like it's always been them with their it's the long throw-ins, it's the time wasting, it's just one of those. It's everything about League One summed up in a club. But nonetheless, we came away with a win. And Dan, I guess we'll start kind of in the first half and just kind of right out the gates. We did start once again pretty positive.
Yeah, I thought we were playing some of the best football we've played all season. The link-up play that we had in the midfield, and then Patrick Roberts and Jack Clark on the wings were really causing problems. The only thing in that first half that was missing was that final third quality, that little perfect pass or that little perfect ball into the corridor of uncertainty for someone to latch onto. Because we were passing it around them like it was absolutely nothing, and we looked like a proper team yesterday. And yeah, I thought Patrick Roberts was instrumental to that as well. He had the fullbacks on strings for 90 minutes, 96 minutes.
Yep.
And it's just nice to know that even when things aren't going that way, we now are turning these draws into wins. I know it's only been a couple, but recently Alex Neil's made these substitutions that have turned draws into wins. And like the Twitter post that Adam put on a couple of hours ago, saying that Alex Neil has won us four points or 6 points from the last 3 games from substitutions that he's made. So, and I know this is only the first half that we're talking about, but just in general, it's just nice that we can stay till that 96 minute, knowing that we'll still push on and still throw the kitchen sink at it to get a point, to get 3 points.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw the Gillingham Twitter account. That was, I think it was the 93rd minute tweeted like Sunderland's throwing the kitchen sink and the fridge and whatever other appliance. But we'll get to that. But I guess just real quick too, the lineup was for the most part unchanged, but we did see Danny Bath make a return, and I thought he looked pretty solid. And then the wonderful boy Alex Pritchard came back, and it's funny because I had just kind of written him off for this, because the last few weeks you just kind of forget when someone's injured and how long they're injured for. And seeing him back, I was just like, oh, thank God, because he just commands that attacking midfield role just so much. He's a class above, really. Him and Patrick Roberts together. And we'll get to some of the others, but those two, just like you said, linked up pretty well. But once again, we did get through the first 45. It was pretty uneventful for the most part. We had a few chances, but Daniel, did you kind of have that sinking feeling again of like, oh wow, we might?
Yeah, it just seemed like
seem
like one of those games. It just wasn't going in the back of the net. I think Luke O'Nien had that header in the 20th minute, and we created a few opportunities. Came close from a corner. There was actually a couple of corners. There was loads of scrambles in the box. Just that very familiar feeling with Sunderland fans where you just feel like it's not going to be your day.
Right.
Obviously that turned around very later on, but just kind of with the way Gillingham were playing, and I almost feel worse when we're playing well because it's very typical of us to not score when we do play well. But yeah, absolutely delighted, obviously, in the end with the result.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean. Where it's like if we start playing bad, you're like, okay, well, at least in the second half, like we're not gonna play two bad halves,
Yeah,
Versus
like
I don't know
Alex
if
Neil's going to do that thing where he brings on players and they score. Like,
right, but it's like if we're playing good, it's like, well, was that our half that we played well? And now we're gonna play like,
yeah,
shit in the second half. So, yeah, we'll see. But no, I think first half, like we said, just kind of played out exactly. And like we mentioned, I mean, Gillingham really were time wasting in the first half, and I just couldn't believe it. And even anytime just the ball went out of bounds, and they have I think Jackson's the one who has just the long throw and everything like that. It just felt like it was moving that way. But the one thing I noticed too, the crowd was really up for it. I mean, they were really supportive. I felt through the entire game, but especially in the first half, it looked like a beautiful day out there. First off, nice sunny day. The pitch looked really well. I think Alex Neil mentioned that the pitch has been in really good condition. But going to the second half, and I mean, it's pretty much more of the same. So, Dan, but what were you kind of seeing in the second half, or what did you feel like changed, or as the minutes kind of ticked on and we still weren't scoring, what did you feel like we needed to do other than the subs to try to get a goal?
I mean, when we came out in the second half, I don't think too much changed. I think it was still a case of it was them playing a formation of 10-1 for
Yeah.
the whole game. It wasn't. There's not much we could really do when you've got a team set up that defensively, and they to be fair, they dealt with everything for the 95 minutes, but essentially, but it's just the perseverance that we saw. We didn't give up. There was a couple of times where maybe Jack Clark or Roberts were putting balls into the box that weren't really coming to anything, or were hitting the first man, etc. You didn't see them stop and drop off and lose confidence over it. We kept going, we kept pushing, we kept going, kept creating these chances. And ultimately, when you've got a team that is set up like that, and they're going to be tired, they're going to have a lapse in concentration, which is exactly what that last goal was for that defender. Just that constant pressure is going to tire and wear teams down. That it's going to break them eventually, whether that's in the 5th minute or whether that's in the 95th minute. A team's not going to be able to deal with that pressure for 96 minutes, and we saw that.
Yeah, because they didn't really have any chances. None that I can really even remember. And just like you said, they really were set 10 behind the box. But the one thing I noticed was a lot of the balls that we did really well of passing and getting the balls kind of into the attacking third. And then it just kind of not fizzled out because we were still moving the ball well. What I was really screaming out for is just earlier balls into the box, even from a little bit deeper. And because Ross Stewart, Daniel looked like he was kind of just on an island, right? Like I didn't feel like Ross Stewart had much of an impact, or what did you see from him out there?
I feel like that tends to happen as well regularly. I don't think we utilize them as well as we should do in a lot of games. I felt yesterday an awful lot of our play, although it was very good, we were trying to kind of cut through the heart of Gillingham all the time, rather than kind of put those balls into the pockets and into the box and create stuff. Because I thought we did. We caused them an awful lot of issues from corners and put them under an awful lot of pressure. And it was always that kind of final ball that was missing for us. And I think we need to find a way to utilise Ross Stewart kind of balls to his feet, players running off him, rather than just kind of like he's one of the best strikers in the league, if not the best. And we need to play to his strengths more than we have been.
Yeah.
I just felt like we were nearly trying to play too much football with it, rather than kind of getting it down the flanks and just putting it in the box and putting them under pressure. When we did that, they kind of were nothing balls. But we kind of just tried to. We were very predictable playing through the heart of the defence, and like Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts cutting in and shooting. I think we need to vary it a bit more, put balls in the box, and obviously in the end it paid dividends. So I'm not going to complain, but I think we could have had one or two more if we did that a little bit more.
Right, and I felt like that was the struggle with, I think Clark specifically, because he's got, buckets of talent, right? Like, you can just see him out there, like, the way he can
Absolutely,
beat
yeah.
his man and things like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, especially against, the League One club that is Gillingham, sure, you can beat that first and second man, but there's 7 other men who are just sitting in the box. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, good luck. Like,
The,
it's not that low of a league, right? So, and I feel like they just try to really dribble all the way into the goal. Or, as
the,
we saw, they cut inside, but
the thing with Jack Clark is, though, he's young and inexperienced, but we could see he's got quality.
oh yeah,
But the one thing that annoys me probably the most about him is the fact he's a left winger without a left foot, and he will not take anything on his left foot.
yeah,
And that's really frustrating because there's a lot of times yesterday where he was played through into good positions. A simple left-footed cross along the floor would have caused a lot of problems, but he chose to cut back onto his right because he doesn't have the confidence in his left foot. And with all the quality he's got, I would have expected him to be able to at least have a go with his left foot because it's so predictable for a fullback or a defender that's coming in to defend him because they know that they just have to hold back a bit because they know he won't take it on that left. So
right.
it just annoys me watching it that we've got a left winger without a left foot where he could be unbelievable potentially on a right wing. Even if Patrick Roberts has got like a slightly stronger left foot, swap them around because I think Jack Clark will offer so much more
Yeah,
going down that right hand side.
and I think Danny Collins mentioned that as well. Like try swapping Clark and Roberts, and well, I think really with Roberts too is he obviously does not stay on his wing. He's able to bring that ball in the middle, and that's just kind of what we kept seeing. Is I don't mind when the wingers do bring it inside, but only if they're kind of looking for that through pass. But it just wasn't going to happen with the amount of defenders that were in there. So now we're taking shots from 18, 20 yards out that are getting blocked literally every single time. Like, it was just physically impossible to get through that defense. And, Jack Clark just reminds me kind of a lot of, McGeady in a lot of the ways that like the skill set he has, the moves and that first touch. But it's just like the delivery just isn't there for that final ball. And I think Sirkin and Winchester did well on their runs. Same thing though, the balls into the box when we needed them just weren't there. And I feel like that's been our Achilles heel, so to speak, since we've been in this league, whether it's Denver Hume or whoever it is, kind of making these runs and getting the ball into the box. Is we have one of the best strikers, like you said, in this league who feeds off these headers, and we just sometimes just can't get in the ball. But nonetheless, we did keep plugging away. And this is really, like I said, when I started to notice, because this was when the time wasting, 60th, 70th, 80th minute time wasting was, blatantly obvious, and the ref obviously wasn't going to be doing anything about it. The crowd, though, I think responded really well. And usually you can tell they're getting frustrated and flustered and angry, and you can kind of just hear them groaning the entire time. But I felt like it was mostly positive. And then we made the sub, so we brought on, I think it was a 3 sub, right? Same time. It was Embleton, Broadhead, and Gooch coming on. I think Pritchard was taken off. 09 was taken off. And I think Winchester. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to remember the game. And just like we mentioned, I think immediately kind of seeing Embleton in there, getting the ball from the middle, moving it upfield. Gooch was, doing his normal Gooch things, running up, and then Nathan Broadhead. Daniel, what did you think those subs came on, and what were you looking for them to do to kind of see out the game?
I was happy enough with the players that came on. The players who came off, though, I wasn't too happy with. Not sure how Corey Evans is still on the pitch.
We'll get to that.
We will get to that. I don't want to mention his performance just yet, but I think like even Matete, like Matete, Neil staying on the bench when they provide so much more, especially in a game like that where we need a goal. Would have been more viable options, but obviously, what can I say? We came away with the 3 points, so the subs worked. I thought Gooch actually did quite well when he came on.
I think they all did. Yeah, Goose.
Yeah,
and obviously Embleton as well.
Embleton and Broadhead are the reason we scored the goal. So, they did their job, and the subs came on and made a massive difference. So I can't complain about that. But yeah, I was a bit taken aback that certain people were left on the pitch when they were. But
Well, yeah.
It is what it is.
I'll save that for the end. But Dan, what do you think of Embleton? Right, because for one, I really like him. I really like him, and I know sometimes over the course of it, like when he starts games and stuff, he doesn't quite have the impact. But like you can't really think of a better impact sub. Somebody good with both feet, who's confident, who understands the club as well. He's been here. But yeah, Dan, what are your kind of opinions of Embleton?
I really like him, and I think he's a very technical player. There's a reason he was Blackpool's main man when they got through the playoffs 2 seasons ago, or 3 seasons ago, whenever it was. Um, I also feel like he's a confidence player though. So if something's not going well for him, he'll start to get lazy and he'll start to tire off, which is why we might not see him starting as much. But we all know that he's got bags of potential, bags of talent, and he knows exactly how to use it. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play down the middle. His delivery, his quality, his vision is unbelievable as well. Sometimes he might try a bit too much, and sometimes he can lose his head a little bit as he doesn't have he's probably got the most red cards this season out of anyone. But when he's on his day, when mentally he's fixed up and ready to fight for it, he could be one of the best players on the pitch. Which is why he's such a good impact sub in games like this because of that. Like you were saying, you wanted the earlier crosses from deeper. That's exactly what he provided to a T on a plate. Michelin star, 5-star restaurant to Nathan Broadhead, and that's the quality he possesses. And I'd love to see him to play with Daniel and Matete, or to play with Daniel and Pritchard, because I just feel like those three together consistently will bring something unbelievable to the club. Because yesterday I thought the game was screaming out for Daniel. His ability to pick those passes through the final third and through that line of defense, like Eye of the Eagle stuff. And he wasn't on, but Embleton did the job just as well in the crucial time, which is when we need him.
And I think I'm thinking back. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Just on Embleton as well. He also has experience of getting promoted. I think it was through the playoffs with Blackpool last year. Was it the playoffs? I'm not sure.
I think it was last year. Yeah.
So he does have that experience of kind of being in the trenches and winning those knockout games. So I think that could provide an awful lot for us kind of in the run in as well.
Right. Yeah. And I can't remember specifically the game, but this is the second time I think Embleton has literally the same type of cross, a late, to get us a late goal to win. And just like you said, his vision, I think in the middle is good. Because it's an interesting one. Because, with Luke 09, which, it's hard. Yeah, I remember earlier in the season, some people were kind of slagging off Luke 09, but you love the way he plays. But I don't know. He's just kind of a funny one, I think, Luke 09, because, he can play a multitude of positions, but I don't think he does any of them extraordinarily well. So, and maybe this is the way it works, right? You get Luke 09 in there, you have him run the defense ragged, then you pull on Embleton, but there's going to be other games where we need to score earlier, right? And just like we mentioned with Evans and even 09, that's not, I don't know. It's a tough one. Yeah, to kind of sort that out.
09's that sort of player that you don't expect to be good at football, and so he's like very unorthodox, which makes him good at football. It's a weird one,
right?
But you can't question his work rate and determination, and his like bits of shit arsery that he does.
Right.
And that's what is so crucial to us. But when it comes to maybe the playoffs, etc., or if we get that, or even the game Saturday against Oxford, and then the week after or 2 weeks after against Plymouth, this is when we're going to need Embleton and Dan Neil to really step up, and Pritchard as well, because I think in those games you can't really justify having a midfield that contains Corey Evans and 09 when you've got Embleton, Dan Neil, Matete, Pritchard, all fighting for their place on the bench. So
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, it's all well and good 09 running the defence ragged, which is exactly sort of what he did yesterday. He was making those runs in behind Ross Stewart, as we saw when he hit the crossbar. But when it comes to the actual crunch, well, this is the crunch end, but when it comes to the vital time where we need the points, I think we can't rely on that work rate. We need to rely on the quality, technicality of the game, and really play smart football, smart technical football, rather than just running 90 minutes hoping for something.
Right. And speaking of, so roughly right about, I think it was, the late 80s, maybe early 90 minutes. There was kind of just a looping ball over the top. And then I think Ross Stewart was offsides and somebody still kind of just launched it up. And Broadhead was the one who made the run late. And it was Broadhead, basically one-on-one with the defender. And then he had the goalkeeper squares it to the middle. And the person there is Corey Evans, who I think did adjust his body well. Had a decent shot to where the ball was placed, but obviously it was just wide. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought right there, I was like, well, that was our chance, right? I didn't think we were going to be getting another chance like that.
And I was feeling when it was Corey Evans on the end of it. If that was Dan Neal,
It's the second time. It's the second time where it's like we needed a goal right there, and then it lands to Corey Evans, who he does everything well to get to that spot, right? Like he makes the right run, he avoids defenders, and it's just final ball is just so bad.
I think he also could have played it one more out wide. Was it Jack Clark?
Right, right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think there was another option there.
I
think
yeah,
he knows
sorry.
as well as we do that he doesn't have in his locker to finish that. So I don't know.
I don't mind him taking the shot, right? Because that was confidence, right? Like just a one-time shot, and it wasn't miles off. It wasn't like he. I think it was Josh going back, a couple years ago, who just sent everything 30 yards over the bar. Like it was a decent shot, but earlier in the game, fine, you live with that. But at that point, I was just thinking we needed a goal there, and then
it's one of those opportunities, though.
No, you're good.
Jump in, but it's one of those. I guess it's one of those opportunities for him, because he's playing with the fans against him. He's playing with a lot of negative energy surrounding him at the moment, and in that little 30 seconds of madness, it's one of those where if that goes in, that sort of makes him.
Oh yeah.
Gives him that bit of confidence, like that maybe he needs because of how negative it is, and it makes him a legend for this game. His game as a whole is sort of forgotten about because he's secured us the 3 points. We move on to Saturday, but he misses, and that sums up his whole game or whole last couple of months really at the club. So it's one of those. It's like a lose-lose situation, sort of.
And I think it's tough because I'm not really one on slagging off players just in general, because especially on social media, I think because the players see it and things like that, and they have to have thick skin and whatnot. But it's tough with Evans because it's not like he's playing extraordinarily bad, right? Like when we had McFadden, for example, that was also just kind of a bad situation because he should have never been in the situation to have to start for us, but he did, right? And he was just constantly getting burnt and resulting in basically goals scored against us. I mean, Evans does play. I don't know if well is the right word, but he does play decently. Like he's not giving the ball away. Yeah. He's not doing things like that. But the frustrating part is, I think, is we see the talent that we have on our bench and we know what they can do. Evans is just the most standard, milquetoast player that you'll ever see, where it's just and that's, I think, where the frustration from the fans come.
Yeah, 100%. Really
don't get me wrong.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, look at him. He's not a Northern Ireland international with however many caps he has, plus a very consistent Blackburn Championship midfielder for no reason.
Right.
He's got that talent. He's worked hard his career to be able to get him that far. But then when we've got England internationals, in England under 21 internationals, under 23 internationals playing that are on the bench, and Jay Matete, who's going to be called up sometime as well. You look at Corey Evans at 31, 32, however old he is. When we've got that exciting prospect on the bench, it's going to be harder for him because he doesn't have that skill that those lot have. He hasn't been brought up in the same era of football that those lot have. His maybe skill set, his mindset is probably in a completely different place to where Daniel, Jay Matete, Embleton's are, in terms of how you play a game of football, how you control that midfield. And I think go back a couple of seasons, and Corey Evans would have been one of the first names on the team sheet. But now we're moving into a different era of football. I think that's where we need to stop relying on this sort of traditional CDM type player, where he's not going to get the goals and assists. He's going to do sort of a job in midfield. He's going to do sort of the dirty work, but it's not going to be pretty, and a lot of times it's not going to pay off. Whereas we've got the other players that will do the dirty work, plus a lot more, because that's how they're being trained. That's how they've grown up in the academy, to really fight, to be that box to box, to sort of merge the number 6, the number 8, number 10 all together, all three of them. And I think that it's just coming to the end of the era for him, in terms of progression and ability to influence games.
No, yeah, I think those are really good points, and it's I'm kind of caught into two frames of mind because, and I know Alex Neil, like in his post-game interview, was talking about Evans, basically just saying he likes the experience and he likes having him kind of sit obviously right in front of the back four because he's physical, right? He's a smart player, and I think to see out a lead, he's right exactly what kind of who you want there. But now we're kind of in the position where, we need to score goals earlier, right? We can't keep waiting for the 95th minute. And the way I see it is like, maybe throw on Daniel or Matete to start. Let's see if we can get those 1 or 2 goals earlier. Then Chuck Evans on with the last 35 minutes, right? See out the game. He's going to be physical. He's going to be in the right spot. He's not really going to make those mistakes. But I'm not the one managing these guys. I'm not the one sitting out on the training pitch, and I understand the experience piece because outside of him, I mean, I guess Bailey Wright has a good chunk of experience and things like that, and leadership quality. It's just there's always one, right, that the fans' ire draws, and it is Evans. But nonetheless, the goal, the missed opportunity didn't last too long because just about a minute or two later, I honestly, I just watched the highlights back and I already forget kind of how it built up. But all I know is Embleton essentially got the ball, pushed it up across, a little bit past halfway, saw Broadhead in the box and just delivered, like you said, an absolutely perfect ball. And the thing I noticed about Broadhead is, for one, he's built pretty well. He doesn't seem very tall, right? But he's lightning fast and he has amazing verticality. Like the way he jumped up to time that ball, I mean, you'd think it'd be Ross Stewart, right? But he gets enough contact on it. It barely dribbles in the back of the net, and then he's ripping his shirt off and running into the corner. It was amazing. It was one of those games where you just, like we said, we just didn't think it was going to happen. Then it was pulled off. So yeah, Daniel, what was your kind of immediate kind of reaction after the ball did cross the line and we got the
absolute euphoria? I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. And yeah, you're right. His jump was incredible. Like, he's a proper athlete, isn't he? He just
right.
Kind of the way he timed it, the way he bet the defender. Like the defender didn't know where the ball was before it was in the back of the net. Yeah, I was just so happy when it went in, and it's great for Broadhead as well. He deserved that goal, and it's great for his confidence after a delay out or a spell out on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he can kick on from here and get a few more of those, because I think he's due. I think he's a quality striker. Remember when he got injured against Arsenal, the goal he got in that game?
Oh yeah.
He's just an absolute finisher, and I think he'll be a huge player now coming up to the playoffs if we make it.
Right. Well, I mean, speaking of, I mean, these 3 points, they're always going to be massive at this point. But seeing how the other results went, because I know Chef Wed won a late one. I think Wickham won again as well. I mean, Dan, we had to have these 3 points. It really would have been. I've said it would have been season over for the last couple of weeks, but it really would have put us pretty much under the gun at that point if we didn't get all 3 points.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. This end of the season, I don't think I've ever seen a league so close in terms of 1 point could see you miss out on playoffs. And even though it's against Gillingham, that could be the biggest 3 points of the season, because that now puts us back in the front foot for promotion. We need it's now ours to lose, because everyone else is caught up on their games in hand. We're on the same level of games, and slightly higher points. It's our playoffs to lose now. We've done the hard work to get us back into this position. We got lucky with a couple of results, but now we need to work even harder. We need to work 150% harder to be able to see off the playoffs, to be able to get us to that semi-final that we need to get to. And like I said, it's a good team, is a team that'll see this game out, that'll play well and get a point. A great team is a team that'll play well for 96 minutes and get a winner. And hopefully that's the mentality we now have to push on into playoffs. And like Daniel said, Nathan Broadhead, we knew what he could do before he got injured. He was instrumental against Arsenal, so we can see that he can do it at a top level. This is a player we've needed back in the squad, because as a centre back, he's my nightmare to play against, that type of striker. When he's agile, quick, he can make the runs. He's clever, but he can also have that aerial threat and that strength as well. So him against a couple of other League One defenders, I think will be game over. So we just need to keep him as fit as possible, as fresh as possible, and really grind out these results now.
Right, and I think what's interesting about our position, obviously it would be nice to be like comfortably in the playoffs, right? Like a position in third, where you're kind of chasing the top two, but sometimes when you're in that third place position, you're trying to catch the top two, and it's just not going to happen. You enter the playoffs kind of in a lull, right? Kind of just like, oh man, like we spent all that energy trying to catch the top two and we didn't. Versus our position where the playoffs started last 2 weeks ago, right? Last game is really when the playoffs started for us. Every single game now is almost like the playoff or a cup final. And Daniel, you have to think that having that sort of edge and mentality and having to fight for this position, if we do end up making the playoffs, obviously, but I do think it's looking good. But being in this position is good preparation for that.
Yeah, I think it's what we've been missing the last couple of seasons. We've always kind of been in third, chasing top two, kind of comfortably making the playoffs, and then, well, apart from that time with Lee Johnson, not that was very uncomfortable. But we've always been in a comfortable position in the table, like knowing we'd make playoffs. And I think it'll stand to us now that we have to fight for a place there, because we were kind of in a position where we should have got promoted, we could have got promoted. We have to go through these two kind of knockout games, World Cup finals essentially. And I think now with the mentality that Alex Neil has instilled in the players and the games that are coming up, and how crucial all these matches are, I think it really will stand to us if we do eventually make that semi-final.
So that puts us. Yep. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say as well. When you're in that third and fourth place position, comfortably in promotion, in the playoff places, points ahead, that's when you can start to get complacent as well. As ridiculous as this sounds, though, being in this fighting position, going into the playoffs, where one slip up of points where we don't get the three and we only get one could cost us promotion, will install a different type of mentality into these young players that we wouldn't have had if we were just comfortably in third, just seeing out the end of the season to the playoffs. It means that every single match you have to fight for because of what's on the line. And then when you go into the playoffs, it's exactly the same mentality. It's the exact same level of intensity that you need to play with. So if you're going into the playoffs with a bit of complacency, you may have dropped a couple of points where you should have won, but it's okay because you're in the playoffs. That won't get you through to the Wembley. But fighting for it week in, week out, knowing that your life is on the line, is exactly the sort of mentality and the confidence that's needed in the playoffs. Because if you look in 6 games time and we've just scraped playoffs by some 96-minute winners, some big points against Plymouth, Oxford, etc., it's going to do the world of good for the playoffs, and hopefully it installs that mentality that we need, that togetherness, that unity, that perseverance and resilience, where even if things aren't going your way, you can still grind it out to get exactly what you need to accomplish the win.
Exactly. Yeah, there's 18 points left to play for. And we currently sit 6th, just one point kind of safe in the playoffs. But I mean, really, it boils down to next week. We play Oxford basically in that 7th spot. I mean, it just becomes a massive game. Every game, obviously, is a massive game. But outside of Oxford, we have Oxford and then Shrewsbury, which that's a Friday game, which is kind of weird. But it has to be a win. But then you play Plymouth, who's another playoff team. Cambridge, who's obviously not. Rotherham, who's taking quite the wobble, and then Morecambe. So it's kind of back and forth where it's like, sure, there's some games against good talent, some games against poorer sides, but every game becomes equally as crucial. So I think just like we said, being in that situation, prepping the team for this is good. But nonetheless, 1-0 win, 3 points. I don't think we're gonna do player ratings, but man of the match at least, because there's one more segment I want to hit at the end. But who's your guys' man of the match for this one?
Has to be Broadhead, doesn't it? Has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the whole lineup, and I was like, no one really played bad, no one played extraordinarily, but yeah, I think Embleton and Broadhead for me, but yeah, the runs Broadhead was making, and he almost set up the game-winning goal to Evans. I couldn't shut that down.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd even give an honourable mention to Patrick Roberts. I think he caused the problems all game, and he was the one that made that Gillingham defence tied, which could have been the reason for their slip up right at the end where they've lost focus. They've been too busy relying on, say, Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts. That lack of concentration has allowed Broadhead to get that goal.
There it is. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest news, right? Getting those 3 wins, getting that, it's gonna be fun, heading to the latter stages, because it can't ever just be boring for Sunderland, right? It has to be exciting, and we'll see. I like what we're seeing though so far. But last thing I wanted to touch on, earlier in the week, we had the World Cup draw, folks. We had the World Cup draw, and of course, England and USA find ourselves in Group B. Just real quick though, I'm assuming you guys saw it as well. What do you guys think of some of the groups, and what are you guys looking forward to most for this next World Cup?
Go ahead, Dan.
I'd say, in terms of the World Cup, England have to be one of the favourites. I was stood in the shower earlier today thinking about it. The fact that I still don't agree the World Cup should be played where the World Cup is. I still don't believe that it should even be ever considered for a World Cup to be in winter period. Either I'm not happy about that at all. But in terms of the group, England couldn't really have asked for a better group. I'd say the only real competition in there is the US, but they're not really big competition.
Hey, whoa now, hey, no.
I'd say as well, Iran can be quite a bogey team. When you're looking at how they played in the Asian tournaments and also just in friendlies, they are a strong side. They do have the ability to win games. They won I think they were at the top of their group as well for the qualifications. So they'll be a one to look out for and a hard team to beat. But surely England have to be favourites as opposed to other countries.
Right, and then Daniel, the playing game for this one for the 4th spot, Wales is waiting the playoff game between Ukraine and Scotland. Who do you see getting that final spot?
I think I'd love to see either Wales or Scotland do it. Obviously, I'm Irish, so I've not really.
Fair enough.
I'm not used to looking at World Cup draws like that because I'm never really in them. But no, I think Scotland have a tough game on their hands against the Ukraine. I think Ukraine are a good squad, but I think Wales comes out of that, to be honest. And I think Wales and group with England would be very interesting. I also think Denmark and Senegal are kind of dark horses. I think they could throw a few spanners in the works in their groups. I think
right,
the likes of Netherlands, France, England will all comfortably make the knockout stages of the World Cup. But Argentina as well, obviously.
Yeah, you look at Group D, and that's got France and Denmark, and then a playing game in Tunisia. So you've seen that, obviously France and Denmark get another. And just like with the dark horses, I think Canada as well. I might be one of the few in this group who've watched a lot of Canada, but they did finish top of CONCACAF, the illustrious CONCACAF. We all know how high the level plays there, but they do have a lot of good a lot of good talent, which is kind of strange to see. It's only, I think, their second World Cup they've ever qualified for, but they're in a pretty decent group. You got Belgium and Croatia, and then Morocco. Croatia's no easy skates. Belgium's obviously Belgium. But yeah, it's just I love USA and England. Like, it just had to be. We've had some just funny games, just really funny games. But I really do, and it's just going to sound ridiculous, but we do have a really good squad this year. And a player that I think is really going to have his breakout, kind of world stage debut is going to be Gio Reyna, and we all know Claudio Reyna and his history. And but I'm telling you, this kid Gio is just unbelievable with the ball. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Pulisic gets all the
Almond.
right. Oh yeah, no, I mean Pulisic gets all the headlines and things like that, rightly so. But I think Gio Reyna is going to be just as good, if not better. He's just unbelievable to watch. But I thought it was just fun. I mean, USA England, this is going to be, and we'll be doing pods, by the way, during this. But like you said, it just sucks that it's during the winter.
It's going to be a sad World Cup though, because think about it, this is going to be the last World Cup of the golden era of football for a lot of players. Manuel Neuer, Lewandowski, Ronaldo, Messi, Sergio Ramos, all of these players that we grew up watching, the 2008, the 2010, the 2012, all these international competitions that have given us so many memories as well. Seeing that this will potentially be their last one out, and it's at such a shit country in such a shit period of time with such shit human rights choices. So it's not going to be a grand farewell, but it's going to be a sad tournament when it comes to them.
It's almost going to feel like one of those, like I know recently, the Middle East has put on those kind of like, oh, it's the World Club Cup or whatever tournament, and it just doesn't feel like a real thing. It just feels like a propped up event, and it sucks because the World Cup is the biggest event in the history of sports, right? And it just feels so plastic, right? With having it, I don't know.
Exactly. Like you look at even the World Cup songs. You look at South Africa. You look at Brazil. You see the cultural impact that it has. All the cultural influences that are in the song, and it really like gets you going. It's like really hyped up. But you see the World Cup song this year, and it just doesn't feel like a World Cup's going to happen. It doesn't feel like that because it's nowhere of great significance.
And it's still 6 months away, or what is it? Yeah, 8 months away. Yeah, it's just come on, that
doesn't feel special
about it. Yeah, like during the summer, it's the best, especially here, wake up nice and early. It's warm out already. You get coffee and watch World Cup. And now it's like cool. It's gonna be in winter. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be
how's it even going to affect the leagues as well?
College as well,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like that is one of the best things. Your teacher puts it on in school, in the classroom. England are playing. It's all everyone's like,
oh, that's
proper
cool.
up for it in the classroom. The school's decorated in England colours, etc. And it's all one big thing. But then in winter, it's just going to be depressing. Everyone's going to be cold. You can't go out in the beer gardens. You can't have a good time, barbecues, etc. You're all sat inside with your coats and scarves on, and it's just going to be depressing. But I just would like to see how it'll affect the leagues as well, because obviously that'll be a month of no football, or a month and a half of no domestic football. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be frustrating, and but we're going to watch it nonetheless. But we don't have to worry because 2026, it's coming to greatest continent in the world, North America, baby. World Cup 2026. So if you guys want to make the trip out, it'll be interesting to see who gets the host. Yeah, it'll be Canada, USA, Mexico. And it'll be interesting to see which states and stuff get it for for the US. But nonetheless, I thought that'd be fun to kind of break that down, and we'll have plenty of months before that. And yeah, like you said, it's just kind of a bummer that it's not during the summer. But anything else? The two Daniels, I appreciate you guys coming on. But yeah, anything else you want to touch on, or is that it? Kind of good for you guys.
It's good for me. Just a huge game against Oxford coming up.
Oh,
and, hopefully we do the business.
Yep. Yeah. Score predictions, both of you.
I can't do it. I can't do it for this game. I honestly can't do it. I'm sat here and it's making me nervous at the moment. Like I'm just sat here, stressed about it. I can't give a score prediction at all. I'm sorry, but it's just too big a game now.
That's fair.
Corey Evans winner.
Yeah, it is. It has to be, right?
Written in the stars.
Written in the stars.
Yep. I like it. I like it. Well, thanks you two. This has been another episode of Mackem in the Middle, and I'll be covering for Josh as many times as you need. So if you can't stand my American accent, as these two say, I apologize for that. But we want to get the pod out. I think it's fun, especially after a win. So thanks again to you two, and we will see you later.
That's all, folks.